The coffee machine was broken again. Kang Tae-ho stared at the old device with tired eyes. It sat on the corner of his workbench, making sad, gurgling sounds instead of producing the dark liquid he needed to survive another long shift. He had fixed this machine 17 times already. He knew because he kept count. "You and me," he said to the coffee machine. "We need to have a serious talk about your life choices." The machine gurgled back. It sounded like an apology. Tae-ho sighed and turned back to the real work. A cargo hauler sat in the middle of his repair bay, its engine exposed like a patient on an operating table. The ship belonged to a trading company that moved goods between the inner planets and the frontier stations. They needed it fixed by tomorrow. They always needed everything fixed by tomorrow. Orbital Dock 7 was not a fancy place. It floated in the dark space between two major trade routes, a stopping point for ships that needed fuel, repairs, or a place to hide from whatever trouble followed them. Tae-ho had worked here for 6 years. He knew every pipe, every wire, every loose panel that rattled when the station's old engines fired up. He was elbow-deep in the hauler's secondary cooling system when he heard footsteps behind him. "Bay's closed," he called out without looking. "Come back in the morning cycle." The footsteps stopped. Then a voice spoke, soft and uncertain. "I apologize. I did not realize. The door was open." Tae-ho pulled himself out of the engine compartment and turned around. He blinked. A figure stood in the doorway. She was tall, taller than him by almost a head. Her skin was silver. Not painted silver, but actually silver, and it seemed to glow faintly in the dim light of the repair bay. She had 4 arms, 2 where arms should be, and 2 more growing from her sides, all of them long and graceful. Her eyes were the color of liquid gold, and they watched him with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. She wore a simple traveler's cloak, the kind people wore when they did not want to be noticed. It was too plain for someone who looked like her. Everything about her seemed expensive, from the way she stood to the way she held her 4 hands, fingers pressed together like she was waiting for something. Tae-ho wiped his hands on his work pants. "You lost?" The alien woman hesitated. "My shuttle. It stopped working. I was told there was a mechanic here who could help." "That's me." Tae-ho walked toward her, stepping over tools and spare parts scattered across the floor. "Name's Kang Tae-ho. What's wrong with your ship?" She seemed surprised by the question, or maybe she was surprised that he asked it so simply, without any of the other questions that should come first. "Who are you? Where are you from? Why does your skin glow?" "The engine makes a strange sound," she said, "and then it stops. I do not know the technical terms." Tae-ho nodded. "Sounds like a fuel intake problem, maybe a cracked converter. Where's your shuttle?" "Landing Bay 12. "All right, let me grab my tools." He walked past her to collect his portable kit, a heavy bag filled with everything he might need. As he packed, he glanced back at her. "You got a name?" Another hesitation. "Vayli. You may call me Vayli." "Nice to meet you, Vayli. You hungry?" "There's a food court on level 3. We can grab something while my diagnostic runs on your ship." Vayli stared at him. In her entire life, no one had ever spoken to her this way. No bowing, no formal greetings, no fear in his eyes when he looked at her alien form. This human talked to her like she was just another customer, just another traveler with a broken ship. She found that she liked it very much. "Yes," she said, "I would like that." They walked through the station together. Tae-ho talked the whole way. He told her about the cargo hauler he was fixing, about the coffee machine that kept breaking, about the time he accidentally set fire to a supply closet when he was new to the job. He talked easily like they were old friends, and Vayli found herself relaxing bit by bit. The food court was a large room filled with small restaurants from a dozen different worlds. Humans sat next to tall, insect-like creatures. Furry beings with too many eyes shared tables with smooth-skinned amphibians. Nobody paid much attention to Veli and her 4 arms. On a station like this, strange was normal. Tae-ho led her to a noodle shop run by an old human woman. "Best synthetic ramen in the sector," he said. "Don't tell anyone, but she uses real vegetables, grows them herself in a hidden garden on level 7. They sat at a small table. Veli watched Tae-ho slurp his noodles with great enthusiasm, making sounds that would have horrified the servants back home. She picked up her own chopsticks, using 2 of her hands, and tried to copy him. "So where are you from?" Tae-ho asked between bites. "Far away," Veli said carefully. "A place called the Ithrani Dominion." Tae-ho nodded like this meant nothing special to him. "Never been there. Is it nice?" "It is. Large. Many planets. Many rules." "Rules are the worst," Tae-ho agreed. "My supervisor, Hana, she's always telling me I break too many rules. But I say if the rules were good rules, they wouldn't be so easy to break." Veli smiled. She could not remember the last time she had smiled so easily. "You have 4 arms," Tae-ho said suddenly. "That must be amazing. I bet you're great at multitasking. You could fix engines and eat noodles at the same time." Veli laughed. The sound surprised her. Back home, she had been trained to laugh politely, to make small, delicate sounds that showed amusement without showing too much emotion. This laugh was different. It came from somewhere deep inside her, honest and real. "I have never tried," she admitted. "You should. Life's too short not to eat noodles while doing other stuff." After dinner, they walked to Landing Bay 12. Veli's shuttle was small and elegant, clearly built for speed rather than comfort. Tae-ho ran his diagnostic tool over the engine and found the problem quickly. "Cracked fuel converter," he announced. "Just like I thought. I can fix this in about 2 hours. You want to wait here or come back later?" "I will wait," Veli said. She found a clean spot on the floor and sat down, watching him work. Tae-ho talked to the engine as he repaired it. He called it names when it gave him trouble. He praised it when parts fit together correctly. He treated the machine like it was alive, like it had feelings that could be hurt or pleased. "Do all humans talk to machines?" Veli asked. "Just the good mechanics," Tae-ho said. "Machines can tell when you respect them. They work better when they know you care." Veli thought about this. In the Dominion, machines were tools. Servants were tools. Even people were tools, used for the good of the Empire. No one talked about caring. No one talked about respect. 2 hours passed quickly. Tae-ho closed the engine panel and wiped his hands. "All done. She should run smooth now. I also cleaned your air filters. They were pretty dirty. No charge for that." Veli stood. "How much do I owe you?" Tae-ho named a price that seemed far too low. Veli had seen mechanics on other stations charge 10 times as much for simpler repairs. "That is not enough," she said. Tae-ho shrugged. "It's a fair price. You seem like you're going through something. Everyone who comes to a station like this is running from something or toward something. I don't need to make it harder." Veli did not know what to say. She paid him and then stood there, feeling like the moment needed something more, but not knowing what. Tae-ho smiled and held up his fist. Veli stared at it. Was this a threat? A greeting? Some kind of human ritual? "It's a fist bump," Tae-ho explained. He gently took one of her right hands and curled her fingers into a fist. Then he touched his knuckles to hers. "It means we're cool, like we're friends now. Good luck out there, Veli." Veli looked at her fist, then at his face. This strange human with grease on his cheek and kindness in his eyes had treated her like an equal, like a person, not like a princess, not like a tool for the Empire. "Thank you, Tae-ho," she said softly. She walked to her shuttle and climbed inside. The engine started perfectly. She lifted off and flew out of the landing bay into the endless dark of space. But she did not go far. She found a spot behind an asteroid where her shuttle would not be seen, and she sat there for a long time. She thought about fist bumps and noodles and a mechanic who talked to machines. She thought about going home, about the crown waiting for her, about the life she was supposed to live. Then she turned her shuttle around and flew back to the station. She was not ready to be queen. Not yet. She wanted to learn more about fist bumps first. 3 weeks passed, and Veli did not leave. She rented a small room on level 4, a simple space with a bed, a window that looked out at the stars, and a heating system that made strange clicking sounds at night. It was the smallest room she had ever slept in. She loved it. Every morning she walked down to Dock 7. Every morning, Tejo greeted her with the same easy smile, like her presence was the most natural thing in the world. He never asked why she stayed. He never asked where she was supposed to be. He simply handed her a cup of bad coffee and put her to work. "You've got 4 hands," he said on her second day. "Might as well use them." Veli learned to pass tools. She learned the difference between a wrench and a socket driver. She learned that the small ships were easier to fix, but the big freighters paid better. She learned that Tejo sang old Earth songs when he worked, songs about love and loss and something called a summer breeze. She learned that she was happy. Yun Hana did not trust her. Hana was the station's logistics officer, a small woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. She had known Tejo for 4 years. She knew when he was lying, when he was hiding something, and when he was being foolishly kind to strangers who might cause trouble. "Who is she?" Hana asked one evening, watching Veli help Tejo install a new navigation system. "Really, who is she?" Tejo shrugged. "She said her name is Veli. She's a traveler. Her ship broke down. Her ship has been fixed for 3 weeks. Maybe she likes it here." Hana frowned. She had noticed things about the strange alien woman. The way Veli spoke, with perfect grammar and careful words. Like someone who had been trained to communicate in many languages. The way she moved, graceful and controlled, like a dancer or a soldier. The way she flinched whenever someone mentioned the Ithrani Dominion on the news screens. And the news had been bad lately. The old emperor of the Dominion had died. His youngest daughter, Princess Valira, had disappeared just before her coronation. The Dominion fleets were searching everywhere. There were rumors of civil war, of noble houses fighting over the empty throne, of billions of lives hanging in the balance. Hana looked at the alien woman with the silver skin and the golden eyes. She looked at the news feed showing a blurry image of the missing princess. The faces were not exactly the same, but they were close, very close. She said nothing, not yet, but she watched. Veli did not know she was being watched. She was too busy learning. She learned that humans shook hands when they made agreements. She learned that they nodded their heads to say yes and shook them to say no, which was confusing because in the Dominion those gestures meant the opposite. She learned about thumbs up and high fives and something called finger guns that made Tejo laugh every time he did it. She learned about coffee breaks. "Work stops," Tejo explained, "and everyone sits together and drinks coffee and talks about nothing important. It's the best part of the day." "Why?" Veli asked. "Would it not be more productive to continue working?" "Sure. But productivity isn't everything. Sometimes you need to just be with people, without any purpose." Veli thought about the palace back home. Every moment there had purpose. Every conversation had meaning. Every gesture was calculated to gain advantage or avoid offense. There were no coffee breaks. There was no sitting with people and talking about nothing. She liked coffee breaks very much. One afternoon, a family arrived at the dock. They were refugees from a mining colony that had been destroyed by a solar flare. Their ship was barely working, held together by hope and tape. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl, both with wide, scared eyes. Tejo looked at their ship. He looked at the family. He got to work. He worked for 6 hours. He replaced broken parts with spare pieces from his own storage. He rewired systems that should have been thrown away. He talked to the engine like an old friend, convincing it to work just a little longer. When he finished, the family's father tried to pay him. Tejo refused. "But we must give you something," the mother said, tears in her eyes. "You've already given me something," Tejo said. He knelt down to look at the little girl, who reminded him of someone. "Your daughter has the same smile as my little sister back on Earth. That's payment enough." The family flew away, toward a safer place. Veli watched them go. "Why did you do that?" she asked. Tejo was already starting on his next job. "Do what?" "Fix their ship for free. You could have charged them. They would have paid." Tejo thought about it. Everyone deserves a working ship. A ship is freedom, a way to escape, a way to find something better. He shrugged. Besides, they needed help. What else was I supposed to do? Veli stared at him for a long time. In the Dominion, help was never free. Everything had a price. Every kindness was a debt to be collected later. No one gave simply because giving was right. "You are a very strange human," she said. "Thanks," Tejo said. He did not seem to realize it was not entirely a compliment. That night, Veli could not sleep. She lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything she had been taught and everything she was learning now. She had been raised to rule. From the moment she could walk, she had been trained in politics, in war, in the 1,000 subtle games that kept an empire together. She had learned that lesser species, like humans, were useful tools but nothing more. She had learned that kindness was weakness and that power was everything. But Tejo was kind, and he was not weak. He was the strongest person she had ever met, in a way she could not quite explain. Strong enough to help strangers for no reason. Strong enough to treat a princess like a person. Strong enough to be himself in a universe that rewarded pretending. Maybe, she thought, everything she had learned was wrong. The next morning, she found Hana waiting outside her door. "We need to talk," Hana said. They walked to a quiet corner of the station, away from the crowds and the cameras. Hana crossed her arms and looked at Veli with eyes that saw too much. "I know who you are." Veli felt cold. "I do not understand." "Princess Valira Sontai, youngest daughter of Emperor Kothrin XIV, next in line for the throne of the Ithrani Dominion." Hana's voice was flat. "The most wanted person in 600 star systems." Veli said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I haven't told anyone," Hana continued. "Not yet. But I want to know why. Why are you here? Why are you pretending to be nobody?" Veli looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, fleets were searching for her. Governments were arguing about her. Billions of people were waiting for her to come home and take the crown that was supposed to be hers. "I wanted to know what it felt like," she said quietly. "To be nobody. To be just a person, not a symbol. To eat noodles and fix engines and have someone treat me like I was worth knowing, not worth owning." Hana was silent for a long moment. "Tejo doesn't know?" she asked. "No. He thinks I am just a traveler. He treats everyone the same. Princes or refugees, alien queens or drunk freighter pilots. He doesn't care who you are. He cares if you need help." "I know," Veli said. "That is why I stayed." Hana sighed. She looked tired, like she was carrying a weight she had not asked for. "You can't stay forever. Whatever you're running from, it will find you. It always does." "I know," Veli said again. "But not today. Please, give me a little more time." Hana looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded once and walked away. That afternoon, Veli went back to Dock 7. Tai-Ho was fighting with his coffee machine again. He looked up when she walked in and smiled his easy smile. "Hey, Veli, want to help me fix this stupid thing? I think it's doing this on purpose now." Veli picked up a screwdriver with one hand, a wrench with another, and a cup of old cold coffee with a third. "Yes," she said, "I would like that very much." For now, she would be nobody. For now, she would learn about fist bumps and coffee breaks and the simple joy of helping people who needed help. The crown could wait a little longer. The sky changed color in an instant. One moment, the view from the observation deck showed only stars, peaceful and eternal. The next moment, massive shapes appeared, dropping out of hyperspace in flashes of blue light. Warships, dozens of them. Their hulls were dark purple, decorated with golden symbols that meant nothing to most humans, but everything to Veli. The Dominion had found her. Alarms screamed through the station. People ran in every direction, some toward escape pods, others toward hiding places they hoped would keep them safe. Tai-Ho dropped his wrench and looked up at the ceiling, where red emergency lights were flashing. "What's happening?" he asked. Hana appeared in the doorway of Dock 7. Her face was pale. "You need to see this. Now!" They ran to the command center, where dozens of screens showed the situation outside. The warships were arranging themselves in a circle around the station, blocking every possible escape route. They were not attacking. Not yet. But their weapons were ready. A message began to play on every screen, every speaker, every device in the station. "Citizens of Orbital Dock 7, a deep voice announced. "I am Admiral Koveth of the Royal Guard. We are here for one purpose only. Return Her Highness, Princess Valira Sonthai, and no harm will come to you. You have one standard hour to comply." Tai-Ho frowned. "Princess who?" Hana grabbed his arm and pointed to another screen. It showed a security feed from near the main docking bay. A group of armored soldiers was escorting someone toward a shuttle. The someone had silver skin, 4 arms, and golden eyes. She was wearing different clothes now, royal robes in deep purple, covered in golden decorations. A small crown sat on her head. She walked with perfect posture, her face showing no emotion at all. "Veli?" Tai-Ho whispered. That's Veli?" "Her name is Princess Valira Sonthai," Hana said quietly. "Her father was the emperor of the Ithrani Dominion. He died a month ago. She's supposed to be crowned queen." Tai-Ho stared at the screen. He could not understand what he was seeing. The woman walking toward that shuttle was not the Veli he knew. The Veli he knew laughed at bad jokes. She helped him fix engines. She burned her tongue on hot coffee and made funny faces. She was his friend. This woman looked like a statue, cold, perfect, empty. "I have to talk to her," he said. "Tai-Ho, don't." Hana tried to grab him, but he was already running. "Those are royal guards. They'll kill you." He did not listen. He ran through the corridors, pushing past panicking crowds, jumping over dropped luggage. He knew this station better than anyone. He knew shortcuts that would get him to the docking bay before the guards could leave. He arrived just as Veli was about to step through the airlock. "Veli, wait!" The guards reacted instantly. A dozen weapons turned toward him, humming with deadly energy. Tai-Ho stopped, hands raised, heart pounding. Veli turned. For a moment, something flickered in her golden eyes. Recognition, maybe pain. Then her face became smooth again. "Stand down," she said to the guards. Her voice was different, colder. The voice of someone used to being obeyed. "He is not a threat." The guards lowered their weapons but did not move away. Their eyes watched Tai-Ho like he was a dangerous animal. Admiral Koveth stepped forward. He was tall, even taller than Veli, with dark blue skin and 6 eyes arranged in a circle on his face. His armor was covered in medals and symbols of rank. Your Highness, he said, we should not delay. The council is waiting. The coronation must proceed. One moment, Veli said. She walked toward Tai-Ho, and the guards parted to let her pass. They stood facing each other, the human mechanic and the alien princess. Tai-Ho searched her face for some sign of the friend he had known. He found only a mask. I apologize for the deception, Veli said formally. You showed me kindness when you believed I was no one. I will not forget it. Tai-Ho swallowed. Were any of it real? The noodles? The coffee breaks? Fixing engines together? Something cracked in Veli's mask. Just a little. All of it was real. That was the problem. Then why are you leaving? Because I must. She looked away. I have duties, responsibilities. An empire is waiting for me. Billions of lives depend on what I do next. Do you want to go? The question hung in the air. The guards shifted nervously. Admiral Koveth looked horrified that anyone would ask such a thing. In the Dominion, no one asked what a princess wanted. Princesses were tools of the state. Their wants did not matter. Veli was silent for a long time. What I want, she said finally, has never mattered. Tai-Ho stepped closer. The guards raised their weapons again, but he ignored them. He looked into Veli's golden eyes, searching for the friend he knew was still in there somewhere. It matters to me, he said, and it should matter to you. You're about to be queen, right? You'll be the most powerful person in 600 star systems. If anyone can change the rules, it's you. You do not understand, Veli said. The Dominion has traditions, expectations. I cannot simply do what I want. Why not? The question was so simple, so human. In the Dominion, no one asked why not. They only asked what is required. Because... Veli started, then stopped. She did not have an answer. Tai-Ho held up his fist. Admiral Koveth made a choking sound. Your Highness, this is highly improper. You cannot... Be quiet, Veli said. The Admiral's mouth snapped shut. She looked at Tai-Ho's fist. Such a simple gesture, a sign of friendship between equals. In the Dominion, there were no equals. There were rulers and servants, masters and tools. The idea that a human mechanic could be the equal of a queen was laughable, impossible, wrong, and yet. Veli slowly raised one of her hands. She curled her fingers into a fist. She bumped her knuckles against his. The guards stared. The Admiral looked like he might faint. Somewhere, an ancient tradition was crumbling to dust. Thank you, Veli said softly, for showing me that another way is possible. Veli, I must go now. But I will remember. Everything you taught me, everything I learned here, I will remember. She stepped back toward the airlock, toward the shuttle that would take her away. Perhaps a queen who knows about fist bumps can change things. Perhaps not. But I will try. Tai-Ho watched her walk away. At the last moment, she turned back. Goodbye, Kang Tai-Ho. You were the best friend I never knew I needed. The airlock closed. The shuttle lifted off, carrying her toward the massive flagship waiting outside. One by one, the warships turned and vanished into hyperspace, leaving only empty space and distant stars. Tai-Ho stood alone in the docking bay for a long time. Hana found him there an hour later. He was sitting on the floor, staring at nothing. Hey, she said, sitting down next to him. You okay? She was a princess, Tai-Ho said. A real princess. And I made her help me fix engines. You made her laugh, Hana said. I watched the security footage. You made her laugh more in 3 weeks than she probably laughed in her whole life. Tai-Ho thought about this. I taught her fist bumps. You taught a future queen fist bumps. That's gotta be worth something. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the stars were peaceful again, like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something important. Do you think she'll be okay? Tae-ho asked. Hana sighed. I don't know. Empires are complicated, crowns are heavy, but she's got something now that she didn't have before. What? She knows that another way exists. She knows that people can be kind for no reason. She knows about coffee breaks. Hana smiled slightly. That's more than most rulers ever learn. Tae-ho nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. It was a wrench. The same one Veli had used on her first day helping in the repair bay. She had left it behind. He held it tight. Good luck, Veli, he whispered. Give them hell. Somewhere far away, on a shuttle heading toward a coronation that would change an empire, a princess heard those words. Not really, of course. Not through the vacuum of space. But she felt them somehow. She touched her fist, remembering the feeling of knuckles against knuckles. And for the first time in her life, she began to plan what kind of queen she wanted to be. The throne room was the largest space Valira had ever seen. Pillars of crystal rose toward a ceiling painted with the history of the Dominion. Thousands of nobles filled the hall, dressed in their finest robes, their faces hidden behind masks of polite interest. At the far end, on a platform of black stone, sat the eternal throne, empty and waiting. Valira walked toward it alone. Her coronation robes weighed more than she did. They were made of rare metals and woven light, designed to show the glory of the empire she was about to rule. Every step felt like moving through deep water. Every eye in the room watched her, judging her, measuring her. She thought about noodles. She thought about coffee breaks. She thought about a human mechanic who talked to machines like they were friends. She reached the throne and turned to face her people. The high priest approached, carrying a crown that had been worn by 47 emperors and empresses before her. It was beautiful and terrible, covered in jewels that represented conquered worlds. Do you, Valira Sontai, accept the duties of the eternal throne? The priest asked. Do you swear to uphold the traditions of our ancestors, to maintain the glory of the Dominion, to rule with strength over the 600 worlds entrusted to your care? Valira looked out at the crowd. She saw Admiral Koveth standing proud in his ceremonial armor. She saw the nobles of the great houses, each one calculating how they could use the new queen for their own purposes. She saw servants standing against the walls, invisible, unimportant, tools to be used and forgotten. I accept, she said. The crown settled onto her head. It was heavier than she expected. Or maybe it had always been this heavy, and she was only now feeling the true weight. Long live Queen Valira, the crowd shouted. Long live the Dominion. The celebration lasted for 3 days. There was feasting and dancing and 1,000 meaningless conversations. Nobles whispered in her ear, promising loyalty, while their eyes promised betrayal. Ambassadors from other empires offered congratulations that were really warnings. Everyone wanted something from her. No one asked what she wanted. On the 4th day, the real work began. The council chamber was smaller than the throne room, but somehow more frightening. 12 advisors sat around a long table, each one representing a different faction of Dominion power. They had served her father. They expected to control her the same way. Your Majesty, said Lord Tavrin, the oldest advisor, we must discuss the rebellion in the outer systems. The primitives there refuse to pay their tribute. We recommend a demonstration of force. Destroy one of their major cities, and the rest will fall in line. Valira looked at the report in front of her. The primitives were a peaceful species who had been conquered 300 years ago. They farmed, they built, they raised families. Their only crime was wanting to keep more of what they grew. No, she said. The council went silent. Your Majesty? Lord Tavrin looked confused, like a machine that had received the wrong instructions. No demonstrations of force, no destruction. Valira stood up. I will go there myself. I will hear their grievances. I will find a solution that does not require murder. But the tradition. I am the queen. I will make new traditions. The council exchanged looks. This was not how things were done. This was not how things had ever been done. Valera did not care. Over the following weeks, she began to change things. Small things at first. She ordered that servants be given rest days. She reduced the tribute required from the poorest worlds. She opened diplomatic channels with the Terran Coalition, the human government that her father had always called barely civilized. The council resisted every change. Your Majesty, this is unprecedented. Your Majesty, the nobles will not accept this. Your Majesty, your father would never have approved. My father is dead, Valera said each time. I am queen now, and I say we can be better. News of her reforms spread across the galaxy. Some called her a visionary, others called her weak. In the outer systems, people began to hope for the first time in generations. In the noble houses, old alliances shifted as factions formed around those who supported the new queen and those who wanted her gone. Tejo heard about it on the news feeds. He was still on Orbital Dock 7, still fixing engines and fighting with his coffee machine. After Veli left, life had returned to normal. Ships came and went, parts broke and were repaired. The universe continued turning, indifferent to the small dramas of individual lives. But Tejo watched the news now in a way he never had before. Human mechanic fist bumps alien queen, one headline said. Someone had leaked security footage from the docking bay. The image of Tejo and Valera, fist to fist, had spread across every network. People were calling it the most important moment in human-dominion relations. Politicians were analyzing it. Scholars were writing papers about it. Tejo just wanted everyone to stop calling him. Mr. Kang, would you like to comment on your relationship with Queen Valera? Mr. Kang, are you secretly an agent of the Terran Coalition? Mr. Kang, what did it feel like to touch alien royalty? He stopped answering his communicator. He went back to fixing engines, trying to ignore the fact that his face was on screens across 600 star systems. Hana thought it was hilarious. You're famous, she said, watching him crawl under a broken transport. The most famous mechanic in the galaxy. You could sell your story for a fortune. I don't want a fortune, Tejo said. I want people to leave me alone. Too late for that. You changed history with a fist bump. I just said goodbye to a friend. Hana's smile faded. I know. That's why it mattered. Months passed. Valera continued her reforms. She visited the outer systems as promised, walking among the people her father had conquered, listening to their stories, crying with them over shared grief. She reduced military spending and increased education funding. She proposed a council of species where representatives from every world could have a voice in Dominion governance. The traditionalists hated her. They called her a traitor to her ancestors. They said she was destroying everything the Dominion stood for. They met in secret, making plans, gathering weapons, waiting for the right moment. The assassination attempt came on a quiet evening. Valera was in her private chambers, reading reports on a new agricultural program. She did not see the shadow that slipped through the window. She did not hear the footsteps behind her. She only felt the knife as it cut through the air, missing her throat by inches as she threw herself to the side. Guards burst in. The assassin was captured, screaming about tradition and honor. He belonged to House Morin, one of the oldest noble families, loyal servants of her father's brutal policies. Valera sat on the floor, her robes torn, her hearts beating fast. She looked at the knife that had almost ended her life. It was decorated with the symbols of her own house, her own family. The message was clear. Even blood could not protect her from those who wanted her dead. The news spread quickly. Reformists across the Dominion were outraged. Traditionalists were quietly pleased, even as they publicly condemned the attack. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what the young queen would do. Tejo saw the report on a broken screen in his repair bay. He stared at the image of Valira, shaken but alive, addressing her people with words of peace and determination. She looked tired. She looked older than she had just months ago, but she was still standing, still fighting. "I will not be silenced by fear," she said in the broadcast. "I will not abandon my beliefs because of violence. Those who wish to destroy progress will find that progress cannot be killed with knives." Taeho thought about the woman he had known, the traveler with the broken ship, the friend who laughed at bad jokes. She was still in there, somewhere beneath the crown and the robes and the weight of 600 worlds. She was in danger. He made a decision. "Hana," he said, walking into her office, "I need time off." She looked up from her work. "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe a lot." "Where are you going?" Taeho looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, across impossible distances, a queen was fighting alone against an empire that wanted her dead. "I'm going to help a friend," he said. Hana stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. "About time," she said. "I'll book your passage." Taeho packed his tools. He packed some clothes. He packed the wrench that Veli had left behind, the one he had kept in his pocket for months. Then he walked to the docking bay and boarded a ship bound for the heart of the Ithrani Dominion. He had no plan. He had no weapons. He had no idea what he was going to do when he got there. But he knew one thing. Friends did not let friends face assassins alone. The Dominion homeworld was nothing like Taeho had imagined. He had expected cold metal towers and harsh military architecture. Instead, he found gardens that stretched for miles, buildings that curved like living things, and a sky painted in colors that Earth had never seen. It was beautiful. It was also terrifying, because everywhere he looked, he saw soldiers. The coup had begun 3 days ago. Taeho learned this from frightened whispers on the transport ship. House Morin and its allies had seized the palace. Queen Valira was being held in the throne room, surrounded by traitors who demanded she renounce her reforms. The loyalist forces had surrounded the building, but an attack would mean the queen's death. The galaxy was watching. The galaxy was waiting. And Taeho was walking through service tunnels beneath the palace, following maps he had downloaded from an old Ithrani ship he had repaired years ago. "This is crazy," he muttered to himself. "This is absolutely crazy." The tunnels were dark and narrow, built for maintenance robots and cleaning drones. They were not built for humans, but Taeho was small and flexible from years of crawling through engine spaces. He squeezed through gaps that should have been impossible, climbed pipes that groaned under his weight, and tried very hard not to think about what would happen if he got caught. The palace above him was in chaos. He could hear distant shouts, the sound of weapons fire, the screams of people caught in the crossfire. He kept moving. His goal was the throne room. That was where they were keeping Veli. That was where he needed to go. The service tunnel ended at an air vent. Through the metal grating, Taeho could see into the throne room below. What he saw made his blood run cold. The great hall was filled with rebels. They wore the purple and gold of the Dominion, but their symbols had been changed, marked with the crest of House Morin. At the center of the room, on her knees before the eternal throne, was Queen Valira. She looked terrible. Her robes were torn. Her crown was gone. Dark blood stained the silver of her skin. But her eyes were still golden fire, still defiant, still refusing to break. A tall figure stood over her. Lord Tavrin, the old counselor, the one who had argued against every reform. He held a document in his hands. "Sign it," he said. "Renounce your changes, restore the old ways, and you may live." Valira laughed. It was a hollow sound, but it was still a laugh. "You think I fear death? I have eaten noodles with a human mechanic. I have learned about fist bumps. Death holds no terror for me." The rebels looked confused. They did not understand what she was talking about. They did not need to understand. "Then you will die," Lord Tavern said, "and we will tell the galaxy that you died a traitor. History will forget your reforms. History will forget you." "History will remember what it chooses to remember," Valira said, "but I will not sign." Lord Tavern raised his hand. A soldier stepped forward, weapon drawn. Tejo kicked open the vent. He fell 10 feet, landing badly, pain shooting through his ankle. But he was up immediately, standing in the middle of the throne room, surrounded by 100 armed rebels who were all staring at him like he had just fallen from the sky, which technically he had. "Sorry I'm late," Tejo said. "Traffic was terrible." The silence in the room was absolute. Lord Tavern found his voice first. "Who are you?" "Kang Tejo. I'm a mechanic." He held up his bag of tools. "I'm here to fix something." The rebels started to laugh. A human mechanic in the middle of an armed coup, armed with nothing but wrenches and screwdrivers. It was absurd. It was pathetic. It was the funniest thing they had ever seen. Valira stared at him with wide eyes. "Tejo? What are you doing here?" "I saw the news. You looked like you could use some help." He started walking toward her, ignoring the weapons that turned to follow him. "Remember what I told you? Everyone deserves a working ship. Well, your empire is broken. Thought I'd see if I could fix it." "You are insane," she whispered. "Probably, but we're friends, right?" "Friends help each other." Lord Tavern had recovered from his shock. "Kill him," he ordered. Tejo did not stop walking. "That would be a mistake." "Why?" "Because I'm the human who fist-bumped the Queen. My face is on every newsfeed in the galaxy. If you kill me, it won't just be the Dominion you're fighting. It'll be the whole Terran coalition. Humanity protects its own." He was bluffing. He had no idea if the Terran coalition would do anything. But he said it with confidence, like it was the most obvious truth in the universe. The rebels hesitated. They looked at each other. They looked at their leaders. In that moment of uncertainty, Tejo reached Valira. He knelt down beside her and pulled out a small medical kit from his bag. "Let me see those wounds." "Tejo," Valira said. "They will kill us both." "Maybe." He started cleaning a cut on her arm. "But at least we'll go out together." "That's not so bad, right?" She stared at him. This strange human who had crossed the galaxy with nothing but a bag of tools, who had crawled through tunnels to reach her, who was now calmly treating her injuries while 100 weapons pointed at his back. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you come?" Tejo smiled. "A mechanic once told me that machines can tell when you care about them. Same goes for people, I think." He finished bandaging her arm and helped her to her feet. "I care about you, Veli. You're my friend." Lord Tavern stepped forward. "Enough of this. Kill them both. We'll deal with the consequences." The soldiers raised their weapons, and then the walls exploded. Loyalist forces poured through a dozen breaches, led by Admiral Koveth. The battle was brief and brutal. The rebels, caught off guard and demoralized, surrendered within minutes. Lord Tavern tried to run but was captured before he reached the door. When it was over, Valira stood in the middle of the throne room, surrounded by loyal soldiers, her enemies in chains at her feet. She should have felt triumph. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt Tejo's hand in hers. "Not bad," he said, looking around at the destruction. "Though I've seen messier repair jobs." She laughed. Really laughed, for the first time in months. The sound echoed through the throne room, and the soldiers who heard it smiled. Their queen was laughing. Everything was going to be okay. In the days that followed, order was restored. The rebels were tried and punished. The reforms continued. Stronger than ever, supported now by a population that had seen their queen willing to die rather than abandon her principles. Tejo was offered everything: titles, land, a position as royal advisor. He turned it all down. "I'm a mechanic," he said. "That's what I'm good at. That's what I want to be." Valera understood. She arranged for a small repair shop to be built on Orbital Dock 7, the best equipment available, with a lifetime supply of the finest coffee in the galaxy. "You could have been anything," she said when she gave him the deed. "A lord, a general, a prince." "I'm happy being me," Tejo said. "Besides, someone has to fix things. Might as well be me." He returned to the station. Life went back to normal, mostly. Ships came and went. Engines broke and were repaired. The coffee machine still gave him trouble. But at least now the coffee was worth fighting for. Valera visited when she could. It was not often. Running 600 worlds took time. But when she did visit, she would come to Dock 7, put on old work clothes, and help Tejo fix engines like she had in the beginning. They never talked about politics. They never talked about empires or reforms or the future of the galaxy. They talked about machines and noodles and bad movies and all the small things that made life worth living. One evening, they sat on the observation deck, watching cargo ships drift past distant stars. It was quiet, peaceful. "Thank you," Valera said softly. "For everything." "For what?" Tejo asked. "I didn't do anything special. You saw me, when no one else did. When I was just a traveler with a broken ship, you saw me as a person." "That changed everything." Tejo shrugged. "You were just some traveler with a broken ship. What else was I supposed to do?" Valera smiled. She held up her fist. Tejo bumped it without hesitation, and in that simple gesture, two worlds touched, a mechanic and a queen, a human and an alien, two friends who had found each other across the impossible vastness of space. The galaxy was changing, old traditions were dying, new ways of thinking were being born, and at the center of it all was a single idea, carried across the stars by a man with grease on his hands and kindness in his heart. Everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves kindness. Everyone deserves a fist bump, even queens, especially queens. The stars continued turning, the ships continued flying, and somewhere on a small station at the edge of known space, a mechanic went back to work, fixing broken things one piece at a time, changing the universe without ever meaning to. That was the human way, and it was pretty damn good.